We are at this moment on the Shabbat that precedes Shavuot and the Shabbat of the beginning of the reading of a new biblical book, the book of Bamidbar, the first Torah portion of the book of Bamidbar. And so I'd like to try to share a few thoughts with you about this moment that we find ourselves in. First, a moment of background, if I may. The rabbis have been counting Torah portions and have been trying to understand the flow of the Torah portions and of our commandments through the Torah portions for approximately 1,000 years, maybe a little over 1,000 years. And in the counting of not only the chapters and the verses of the Bible and the Torah portions, but also the commandments, there are a number of really important moments, and one of them occurs in the 13th century, wherein we come up with what seems to be a really definitive counting of our commandments according to the order in which they appear in the Torah. So, just by way of background, according to Sefer HaChinuch, composed by Rabbi Aaron Halevi in the 13th century, one of the students of Nachmanides, our commandments start in the third Torah portion of the book of Exodus, the Torah portion of Bo, because that's when Moses starts to be the leader of the nation Israel. That's when Moses starts to go in front of Pharaoh, and the commandments end, all 613 of them, start in the third Torah portion of the book of Exodus and end in the third Torah portion before the very end of the book of Deuteronomy, Vayakhel. So we have 613 commandments in order from Bo, almost the very beginning of the book of Exodus, all the way to almost the end of the book of Deuteronomy, the third Torah portion before the end of the book of Deuteronomy, the life of Moses and the notion of Moses giving us the Torah. Torah tzivalanu Moshe, Moses has given us Torah. This is where the commandments come from. And according to our counting of the commandments, according to our counting of the commandments as they occur in our Hebrew Bible, and by the way, this is what most rabbis speak about in traditional Judaism, you know, every Shabbat, these notions of the commandments and what we're commanded to do on a week-by-week basis. There are only 3 Torah portions, besides the very last 2 Torah portions. Ha'azinu v'zot ha'bracha, the 2 last Torah portions wherein Moses departs the scene and Joshua takes over. There's the blessings, the song of Moses and the blessings of Moses, and Moses departs the scene. There are only 3 Torah portions wherein there are no commandments. Between Bo and Vayakhel, there are only 3 wherein there is not a single commandment. One of them is Pekudei in the book of Exodus, which describes the creation that's been taking place of all the elements of the Mishkan and the clothing of the priests and so on and so forth. And it all occurs according to the Torah portion, according to what had already been commanded by God to Moses. There isn't a single commandment in the whole of Pekudei. And the third is Balak, the story of Balak, Bilam, the story of the curse of the Israelites that turns into a blessing. This is the third Torah portion, wherein there isn't a single commandment. And then there is another Torah portion in the middle, where there isn't a single commandment. And that's the Torah portion of Bamidbar, our Torah portion today. Not a single commandment in this Torah portion. And it's an interesting moment because we're about to receive the Torah. Shavuot is the holiday wherein we receive the Torah, And Bamidbar is the Torah portion we read right before Shavuot, right before we receive the Torah. You might have thought we would have an especially copious Torah portion with lots of commandments so that we can really study and prepare for the receiving of the Torah on Shavuot. No, there isn't a single commandment in this Torah portion. And Bamidbar is almost always the Torah portion we read before Shavuot. The rabbis ask themselves, what is going on here? Why is this? By the way, the Torah portion we read right after Shavuot, the longest Torah portion in the Bible, 176 verses, lots of commandments, lots of material. Anyway, before Shavuot, we're preparing for Shavuot. Where's the commandment? What do we do to prepare for Shavuot? Why is it that there isn't a commandment here in the preparation of Shavuot? And how does it speak to us in terms of where we are right now in preparation for Shavuot in the midst of the counting of the Omer? So I'd like to just share a couple of thoughts and maybe a couple of blessings for us toward Shavuot. The first relates to the very beginning of the Torah portion. The very beginning of the Torah portion of Bamidbar. So, וידבר אדוני אל משה במדבר סיני באוהל מועד, ביום הראשון לחודש השני, השנה השנית, לצאתם מארץ מצרים לאמור. So God spoke to Moses in the Sinai desert at the tent of meeting on the first day of the second month of the second year after their exodus from Egypt. Vayomer, and God says, right, and God says, count the children of Israel. Right? Pekod kol rosh adat bnei Yisrael lemishpechotam leveit avotam. Count every single person in the congregation of Israel and the houses of their ancestors and their families. The very beginning of the book of Numbers starts with the counting, the census of the people Israel. We're about to go into Shavuot, and the commentators, and especially Abravanel, tell us something really important about this moment. As we're about to prepare to receive the Torah on Shavuot, we're not coming alone. We're coming with our ancestors, and we're coming with our families. The families who are with us, and the family that is not with us. We come together. The Torah is not just ours. It is not just our legacy. It is not just about what we are receiving on Shavuot straight from Mount Sinai. It has come to us through generations. It has come to us through our families. It is the Torah of our ancestors. And it is the Torah of our families. And so, I want to say to all of you today, first of all, I hope that we reach the moment of Shavuot not alone and not feeling alone, but feeling our ancestors and feeling our family and feeling those who are here and feeling those who are not here with us as we receive the Torah. And then there is the notion of where we are now toward Shavuot. We're in the midst of this last week of the counting of the Omer. And you know, the Omer is this complicated period in terms of the way we live our religiosity. The Omer is a difficult period because it's a period of preparation and it's a period of sadness. During the Omer, traditional Jews don't cut their hair. There's a whole number of other things that we do not do during the Omer. It is said in Tractate Yevamot of the Babylonian Talmud that during the time of the Omer, between Passover and Shavuot, 12,000 pairs of the disciples of Rabbi Akiva perished. And it is said that they perished because ki lo nahagu kavod ze bazeh, they did not treat each other with dignity and with respect. Which comes to teach us something about this moment of the Omer and what we're called upon to do when we treat each other. There is a magnificent teaching of a rabbi who lived in the late 18th and 19th century, Heinrich Alexander, he was called a Hasidic rabbi, who explained to us that the Omer is divided into two periods, divided by Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, which occurs 2/3 of the way into the Omer. And so there are 32 days before and 17 days after. And Rabbi Heinrich Alexander teaches us these 32 and 17 days are translated into Lev Tov. Lev, heart, Tov, good, a good heart. Why? Because the Hebrew letters have a numerical value. The letter Lamed, the L sound, 30, Vet, 2, 32, and Tov, 9 and 6 and 2, together 17. Calling upon us on the days of the Omer to bring ourselves up to having a good heart towards the receiving of the Torah on Shavuot. We're now in the last week of the Omer. This is it. This is the Shabbat of Bamidbar. This is the moment wherein we truly prepare for the receiving of the Torah. This is what we are called upon to do. I don't know if you're aware of it. In the 6th chapter of the Saying of the Fathers, in the 6th chapter, there are 48 attributes listed according to which the Torah may be received. None of them are commandments. All of them are character attributes. And all of them, according to this Rabbi Heinrich Alexander, all of them amount to a Lev Tov, a good heart. And I just was thinking about what Rabbi Klein said a moment ago with regard to the Veshamru. And the notion of God having to somehow besoul itself in the context of what is occurring here in the Veshamru. And I was sitting here and reminded of another element that relates here to Shavuot. In Tractate Shabbat of the Talmud, in the 9th chapter, toward the end of the chapter, between pages 88 and 90, the Talmud goes through a huge long set of descriptions of what happened the moment before the receiving of the Torah. Right before the receiving of the Torah, what was going on? What was happening? What was happening as Moses was ascending the mountain, as Moses was ascending Mount Sinai? What was going on? And there is a teaching right in the middle of that passage, towards the end of the chapter, towards the end of chapter 9. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi is quoted as teaching. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, when Moses went up to Mount Sinai, היה הקדוש ברוך הוא קושר כותרות לאותיות, כותרים לאותיות. The Holy One was tying together the last crown-like decorations to the letters of the Torah, was attaching the last decorations to the letters of the Torah. For those of you who have ever seen a Torah scroll, there are letters that are decorated with these three sticks, if you like, these three ink sticks that look like a crown. Some of the letters of the Torah are decorated with this. In other words, God was putting together the very last elements of the decorations on the letters, the very last elements of the letters, as Moses was going up to the mountain, and as Moses was encountering God, preparing to receive the Torah from God. We don't know what happened there. We don't know what Moses did, what Moses said. It doesn't say anything. All it says then is, Amar lo, God said to Moses, Ha'en shalom be'ircha, is there no peace in your city? Is there no peace that you can bring to me from your city, from your community, from where you are? Is there no peace in your city? You're not bringing me, you're not giving me peace, God says to Moses. To which Moses responded saying, Hayesh Eved shenoten shalom lerabo? Is it possible that a mere servant, a lowly servant, would offer peace to the master? The master with a capital M? To which God responded, Haya lecha le'azreni. You should have supported me. Which I was reminded of when we spoke about the Veshamru a moment ago, because you know how we say, Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. It is up to God to bring to us peace. It is up to God to share God's peace with us here on earth. Well, this Talmudic story tells us something different. It tells us that before we receive the Torah, it is up to us to bring peace even to God. It is up to us to support God, let alone to bring peace to each other and to support each other. And so, as we prepare for the holiday of Shavuot, I want to leave you with this blessing. That you reach this moment of Shavuot and the receipt of the Torah, not feeling alone, but feeling surrounded. And surrounded by ancestors and by family and by those who are here and those who are not here. That we should all be counted at the moment of receiving the Torah. That we should come to the moment of Shavuot wherein we receive the Torah with a lev tov, with a good heart. That we remember the lesson of what happened to Rabbi Akiva's disciples. That we treat each other well and with dignity. And that we bring peace and we bring support. That Torah is not something that we just receive from the heaven and are somehow endowed with. It's a partnership. It's a collaboration. It's something we do together. And that in order for Torah to function, it's up to us to bring peace. It's up to us to bring support. So that Torah among us may thrive. Shabbat Shalom.